the massive alien ships appeared in Earth's sky like dark storm clouds, their metal hulls stretching for miles across the darkness of space. Admiral Dekvar stood on the command bridge of his flagship, looking down at the small blue planet that spun slowly below them. His yellow eyes studied the world with the same cold interest. He had shown to the other 247 planets his empire had conquered. "Sir, our scans are complete," said Lieutenant Zekmul, his voice carrying the mechanical tone common to all Corvani warriors. "The planet shows primitive nuclear technology. We detect scattered military bases, but nothing that poses a real threat to our fleet." Dekvar's four arms moved across the control panels as he reviewed the data. Earth looked exactly like every other world they had conquered over the past 50 years. The humans had basic rockets, simple weapons, and what appeared to be a divided military structure. Their largest cities were visible from orbit, unprotected and vulnerable. "Perfect," the Admiral said, his mandibles clicking with satisfaction. "Signal all ships. We enter rest cycle immediately. Crew rotations begin in 1 hour." Ash! The Corvani had perfected their invasion strategy long ago. They would arrive at a new world, establish orbital control, then rest their crews while studying the planet below. After a full rest cycle, they would begin the systematic destruction of all resistance. The strategy had never failed them, and Earth would be no different. Across the fleet, 10,000 alien warriors settled into their rest chambers. Maintenance crews began their routine checks on weapon systems. Ship's computers continued their passive scans of the planet below, noting the locations of human cities, military bases, and what appeared to be their primitive communication networks. Far below, in a hidden chamber carved deep into the Colorado Mountains, Colonel Kim Woo watched the alien fleet through advanced sensors that the invaders could not detect. The command center around him buzzed with quiet activity as men and women in military uniforms worked at stations filled with technology that would have amazed the aliens above. "They're doing exactly what we expected," said Major Park Dahai. From her position at the tactical station, her fingers moved quickly over holographic displays that showed every alien ship in perfect detail. "All vessels entering maintenance cycle will be vulnerable for at least 6 hours." Kim Woo nodded. Slowly, the aliens had made their first and most critical mistake. They had given humanity time to prepare, and humans had spent that time wisely. For the past 20 years, ever since the first deep space sensors had detected the approaching Corvani fleet, Earth had been transformed into something the galaxy had never seen before. "Send the signal to all continental commands," Kim Woo ordered. "Phase 1 preparations begin now." Around the world, similar scenes played out in hidden bunkers and disguised facilities. In the depths of the Pacific Ocean, submarine crews received their orders and began powering up weapon systems that had been decades in development. High in the Himalayan mountains, what appeared to be simple research stations began extending. Massive energy cannons from concealed positions, Captain Lee Min stood on the surface of what the aliens believed was a small farming village in South Korea, to their sensors. It appeared to be exactly that, a collection of simple buildings surrounded by rice fields. They could not detect the massive fusion reactor buried 300 feet below, or the quantum energy weapons hidden beneath every building. "Power levels at 60% and climbing," reported his technical officer through a hidden communication device. "We'll be ready when the signal comes." Across the planet, thousands of similar installations prepared for what was coming. The aliens had scanned Earth and seen a primitive world with scattered defenses. They had missed the underground networks that connected every continent, the camouflaged weapon systems that had been built into mountains and ocean floors, and the advanced technology that humanity had deliberately hidden from their sensors in the Antarctic. Commander Choi Yeon supervised the final preparations at what appeared to be a scientific research station. The buildings above ground were real, but they concealed something far more dangerous. Beneath the ice lay a continental defense grid that could project energy shields over entire continents and fire weapons capable of destroying ships in orbit. "All stations report ready," she informed Colonel Kim Woo through the global communication network. "The aliens have no idea what they're about to face. The Corvani had conquered other worlds by overwhelming them with superior technology and numbers. They had never encountered a species that had turned their entire planet into a weapon. For 20 years, humanity had prepared for this moment, building defenses that existed in every mountain, every valley, and every ocean depth. As the alien fleets settled into their rest cycle, confident in their superiority, the humans below made their final preparations. The invaders had expected to find a primitive world that would surrender after a brief display of power. Instead, they had given the most dangerous species in the galaxy exactly what they needed most time to get ready for war. The calm before the storm was ending, and Earth was about to show the universe why no one had ever successfully conquered the human homeworld. Captain Li Min stood at his sensor station aboard the Corvani flagship, watching the displays with growing confusion. Energy readings were appearing across Earth's surface in patterns that made no sense. What his computers had identified as small farming villages were now showing massive power signatures that rivaled their own ship's reactors. "Sir, we're detecting impossible energy levels from the planet's surface," he reported to Admiral Dekvar. "The readings are coming from locations our scans showed as empty wilderness." The Admiral's yellow eyes narrowed as he studied the data. Mountains that had appeared lifeless were now glowing with energy signatures. Ocean areas that showed nothing but water were registering massive metallic structures beneath the surface. The primitive planet they had come to conquer was transforming before their eyes. "Run the scans again," Dekvar ordered. "There must be an error in our sensors." 3,000 miles below, Commander Choi Yan stood in the real command center, hidden beneath what the aliens thought was a simple Antarctic research station. The chamber around her stretched for miles underground, filled with weapons systems and defensive shields that had taken decades to build. Above her head, the innocent-looking buildings were just camouflage for the most powerful defensive installation on Earth. "Continental defense grids are coming online," she reported to Colonel Kim Woo through the secure communication network. "All 6 continents report ready. The aliens are about to discover what we've really been building down here." Across the planet, similar scenes were playing out as humanity's true nature revealed itself. In the Pacific Ocean, what appeared to be a small research vessel was actually the surface control station for a massive underwater complex. Captain Yuntae commanded a fleet of submarines that had been hiding in ocean trenches for years, waiting for this moment. "Quantum torpedo tubes loaded and ready," he reported. "Our position is still concealed from their sensors." Had mistaken Earth's technology for primitive nuclear weapons, but they had been seeing only what humanity wanted them to see. Every nuclear facility on the planet was actually a disguised fusion reactor capable of powering weapons that could destroy entire fleets. The simple radar installations they had detected were actually quantum communication networks that connected every defensive position on Earth. Major Park DeHai worked at her station in the Colorado Command Center, coordinating the awakening of defenses across the globe. Her screen showed energy readings climbing toward maximum levels as installations that had been hidden for decades began their final preparations. "The aliens are starting to panic," she reported to Kim Woo. "Their communication traffic has increased by 300%. They're trying to understand what they're seeing." High in the Swiss Alps, what the Corvani had identified as a small mountain village was revealing its true purpose. The buildings were real, but they concealed massive energy cannons that could fire through dimensional space. The final power-up sequence from a control room carved directly into the mountain's core. "Dimensional artillery ready," he announced. "Target solutions programmed for all enemy vessels." The aliens had expected to find a divided planet with separate governments and military forces. Instead, they discovered that every nation on Earth had been working together for 20 years to build a single, unified defense system. The underground networks they had missed connected every continent, every ocean, and every major city into one massive weapon in the hidden depths beneath Seoul. Lieutenant Colonel Jong Hoon watched as the final components of humanity's defense came online. The subway tunnels that ran beneath the city were just the visible parts of a network that extended deep into the Earth's crust. Below the deepest levels lay factories that had been producing advanced weapons for decades. Self-replicating defensive "Drones are ready for deployment," he reported, first wave numbering in the millions. The Corvani fleet continued their rest cycle, but their sensors were now screaming warnings that their computers couldn't process. The planet below was generating energy signatures that exceeded their understanding of physics. Weapon systems were appearing in locations where their scans had shown nothing but empty ground. Admiral Vekvar studied the readings with growing alarm. His empire had conquered worlds with advanced technology before, but those planets had revealed their capabilities from the beginning. Earth had hidden everything until the moment of maximum advantage. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, "we're detecting energy buildups that suggest the entire planet has been turned into a weapon. This is impossible, but it was not impossible. For 20 years, humanity had prepared for this moment. They had built their defenses in secret, hidden their true capabilities, and waited for their enemies to make the critical mistake of underestimating them." Colonel Kim Woo stood in the command center, watching as the displays showed every defensive installation on Earth reaching full power. The aliens had given humanity exactly what they needed most: time to prepare and the element of surprise. "All stations report ready," he announced to his staff. The Corvani wanted to conquer a primitive world. Instead, they've awakened something that has been waiting for them. The planet that had appeared helpless from orbit was about to demonstrate why no alien force had ever successfully invaded Earth. The awakening was complete, and humanity was ready to show the galaxy what happened when someone threatened their home. The first strike came without warning from the depths of the Pacific Ocean. Captain Yunte stood in the control room of his submarine, hidden 3 miles beneath the surface in a trench the aliens had never detected. Around him, his crew worked quietly at stations filled with weapons that had been waiting 20 years for this moment. "Quantum torpedoes loaded and ready," reported his weapons officer. "All enemy ships in the lower orbital zone are targeted." Tay looked at the tactical display showing the alien fleet floating peacefully above. They had no idea what was about to hit them. "Fire all tubes," he ordered calmly. The ocean erupted as massive energy weapons burst from hidden positions across the seafloor. The torpedoes moved faster than light itself, tearing through space toward the unsuspecting Corvani vessels. The first wave of alien ships simply vanished in brilliant flashes of light as the quantum weapons struck their hulls at the same moment. Major Han Sol launched from what appeared to be a simple mountain in Japan. His fighter emerged from a hidden hangar built directly into Mount Fuji, followed by 50 other aircraft that had been concealed in similar positions across the mountain range. The stealth fighters were invisible to alien sensors and armed with plasma cannons that could cut through the strongest armor. "Red Squadron, engage targets in Sector 7, Han Sol commanded as his pilots streaked toward the alien fleet. "Show them what happens when you give humans time to get angry." The sky above Earth transformed into a battlefield as weapons that had been disguised as innocent structures revealed their true purpose. Orbital platforms that the aliens had mistaken for space debris suddenly activated, firing concentrated energy beams that sliced through the Corvani formations like invisible swords. Admiral Vekvar watched in horror from his flagship as his fleet began to disintegrate around him. Ships that had conquered entire star systems were being destroyed by weapons that seemed to fire from the planet itself. His tactical displays showed impossible readings as Earth's surface erupted with coordinated destruction. "How is this possible?" he demanded, gripping the command rail as another wave of his vessels disappeared. "They were primitive. Our scans showed basic nuclear technology." From her position in the Antarctic Command Center, Commander Choi Yeon coordinated the surface-based weapons that were turning the alien fleet into burning wreckage. Her screens showed energy cannons emerging from every continent, firing in perfect synchronization to create a web of destruction that no enemy could escape. "Target their command ships," she ordered her weapons teams. "Let's show them what Earth really looks like when we're defending our home." The aliens had expected to fight scattered human forces with primitive weapons. Instead, they faced a planet that had been transformed into a single unified weapon system. Every mountain concealed energy cannons, every ocean depth held submarine fleets, and every major city was connected to a defensive network that spanned the globe. "Lieutenant Colonel Zhang?" Hune activated the first wave of humanity's automated defenses from his control center beneath Seoul. The ground across 6 continents opened as millions of defensive drones emerged from hidden factories. These were not simple machines. They were intelligent weapons that could learn and adapt during combat. Drone swarms deployed, he reported to Colonel Kim Woo. They're already adapting to alien shield frequencies. Each wave will be more effective than the last. The Corvani tried to retreat to higher orbit, but they discovered that humanity had planned for this as well. Weapons platforms hidden in asteroid fields and behind the moon activated, creating a cage of energy that prevented any escape. The aliens were trapped in a killing field that extended throughout the entire solar system. Major Park Dahai watched from the Colorado Command Center. As the alien fleet's formations collapsed, the invaders had brought thousands of ships to overwhelm Earth's defenses. But they had never faced an enemy that could coordinate attacks across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Enemy fleet strength down to 60%, she reported. They're trying to form defensive formations, but our adaptive weapons are staying ahead of their tactics. Captain Lee Min struggled to maintain his position as the Corvani flagship shook under constant attack. The humans were not just firing weapons, they were using every piece of technology, every resource, and every advantage they could find. Mining lasers had been converted into ship-killing beams. Construction equipment had become orbital weapons platforms. Even simple communication satellites were firing coordinated energy bursts. "Sir, we're losing ships faster than we can count them," his tactical officer reported. "The humans have turned their entire civilization into a weapon. This isn't a battle, it's systematic destruction." Admiral Vekvar realized too late that his empire had made a fatal error. They had not invaded a primitive world defended by scattered military forces. They had walked into the home of apex predators who had spent decades preparing for exactly this moment. The planet below continued to erupt with weapons fire as humanity demonstrated their greatest strength, the ability to turn anything into a tool of war. The storm that was breaking over the Corvani fleet was not just military technology, but the focused anger of an entire species that had been given time to prepare their revenge. The aliens had wanted to conquer Earth. Instead, they had taught humanity that the best defense was to ensure that no enemy ever survived to threaten their world again. The second wave of humanity's assault revealed something that made the aliens' blood run cold. From hidden factories beneath every major city on Earth, clouds of metallic objects began emerging like mechanical insects. Lieutenant Colonel Jang Hoon watched from his control center in Seoul as millions of self-replicating drones poured from underground manufacturing plants that had been working in secret for decades. "First drone wave deployed," he reported to Colonel Kim Woo. "They're already scanning alien shield frequencies and adapting their weapons accordingly." The drones were not simple machines. Each one carried advanced computers that could learn from every attack, share information with other drones, and modify their weapons in real time. As they swarmed toward the alien fleet, they began to change their energy signatures to match whatever would be most effective against each target. Admiral Dekvar watched in growing horror as his fleet's shields, which had protected them against every weapon they had ever faced, began failing against attacks that seemed to evolve with each passing second. "Their weapons are learning," he whispered to his tactical officer. "How is that possible?" Captain Ojen stood in what had once been an asteroid mining facility in the belt between Mars and Jupiter. It's the massive machines that had been built to extract metals from space rocks had been quietly converted into something far more dangerous. With a few simple modifications, the mining lasers became ship-killing weapons that could fire across millions of miles. "Mining Platform 7 ready to fire," he reported. "Target locked on enemy cruiser formation." The aliens discovered that humans did not just fight with military weapons. They fought with everything their civilization had ever built. Construction equipment became orbital weapons platforms. Communication satellites turned into coordinated energy projectors. Even simple weather monitoring stations revealed themselves as disguised sensor networks that could guide weapons with perfect accuracy. Major Kong Yujin commanded a team that had spent years converting civilian space stations into weapon foundries. What the aliens had seen as harmless orbital facilities were actually factories that could produce new weapons faster than the enemy could destroy them. As the battle raged, these stations began launching fresh waves of fighters and drones to replace any that were lost. Station 12 reports full production capacity, she announced. New fighter squadrons launching every 10 minutes. The Corvani fleet tried to adapt to the human tactics, but they faced an enemy that could improvise faster than they could respond. Every time the aliens developed a defense against one type of weapon, the humans would modify their attacks or reveal entirely new systems that had been hidden and waiting in the depths of the Atlantic Ocean. Captain Yuntae coordinated submarine attacks that used the planet's own magnetic field as a weapon. The submarines fired specially designed torpedoes that could bend space itself, allowing them to strike targets that should have been impossible to reach. Dimensional torpedo strike. Successful, he reported. Enemy flagship shields are down to 20%. The aliens began to realize that they were not fighting a normal military force. They were fighting an entire species that had turned their creativity and ingenuity into weapons of war. Every human seemed capable of finding new ways to destroy the invaders. Using tools and methods that defied conventional military thinking, Major D. Park Ta-hai watched from the Colorado Command Center as human forces revealed innovation after innovation. They're using their own gravity generators against them, she reported with amazement. Team 7 just turned a space elevator into a kinetic bombardment system. The Corvani had conquered other worlds by overwhelming them with superior technology and numbers. But they had never faced an enemy that could take any technology and turn it into a weapon. The humans were not just using advanced military equipment, they were using everything their civilization had ever created. Lieutenant Colonel Zhang Heian activated the next phase of Earth's defense as his drones began to reproduce themselves using materials from destroyed alien ships. The mechanical swarms grew larger with each passing hour, turning the enemy's own vessels into resources for more weapons. Drone population has doubled, he reported. They're recycling alien hull materials into new attack units. Admiral de Kfar's tactical officer delivered the report that confirmed his worst fears. Sir, our analysis shows that the humans are not just fighting to win this battle. They're fighting to ensure that no survivor ever returns to warn our empire. They want to make sure we never threaten anyone again. The aliens had expected to face desperate defenders using their best weapons in a final stand. Instead, they found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to have unlimited resources and the ability to create new weapons from anything around them. Every destroyed human facility was quickly replaced by 3 more. Every defeated attack was followed by a new assault using completely different tactics. Colonel Kim Woo stood in the main command center, watching as his species demonstrated their greatest strength. Humans had always been survivors, but when they were given time to prepare and a clear threat to fight against, they became something the galaxy had never seen before. Phase 4 complete, he announced to his staff. All enemy formations are broken. They're beginning to understand what they've awakened. The Corvani fleet was learning too late that humanity's greatest weapon was not their technology, but their ability to use that technology in ways no one else had ever imagined. The final hours of the battle were not really a battle at all. Admiral Dekvar stood on the bridge of his damaged flagship, watching through the view screen as the remnants of his once mighty fleet tried desperately to escape Earth's relentless assault. Of the 10,000 ships that had arrived to conquer this small blue planet, fewer than 300 remained functional. Sir, we're detecting human ships emerging from concealed positions throughout the solar system, reported his tactical officer, his voice shaking with fear. They've surrounded us completely. The CLOI studied the tactical display with growing horror. The humans had not just defended their world. They had turned the entire solar system into a trap. Ships were appearing from behind asteroids, emerging from hidden bases on distant moons, and rising from positions that should have been impossible to reach. Captain Nam Gai-su commanded the human fleet's flagship as it moved with deadly precision toward the remaining alien vessels. His ship had been disguised as a simple space station orbiting Mars. But now it revealed its true purpose as a mobile command center armed with weapons that could destroy entire fleets. "All human vessels report ready," he announced to Colonel Kim Woo through the quantum communication network. "The enemy has nowhere to run." The aliens had used this same tactic on hundreds of worlds surround the planet, cut off all escape routes, then systematically destroy all resistance. Now they found themselves trapped by the very strategy they had perfected, but executed with a precision and ruthlessness that exceeded anything they had ever achieved. Major Park Dahai watched from her station in the Colorado Command Center as human forces moved to complete the encirclement. Ships that had been hiding in the outer reaches of the solar system for decades were now closing in on the alien fleet. "Like a closing fist, enemy escape routes sealed," she reported. "No alien vessel will leave this system alive." The Corvani tried to break through the human lines, but they discovered that Earth's defenders had learned from every battle the aliens had ever fought. Every tactic the invaders attempted had been anticipated and countered. Every desperate move they made only led them deeper into the trap. Lieutenant Colonel Jang Hoon activated the final wave of Earth's autonomous weapons from his control center. The self-replicating drones had multiplied into the billions, creating a cloud of destruction that followed the alien fleet wherever they tried to flee. Each drone had learned from the battle, becoming more efficient and deadly with every passing hour. "Drone swarms are pursuing all enemy vessels," he reported. "They're adapting faster than the aliens can respond." Admiral Vekfar realized that his empire had not just failed to conquer Earth, they had taught humanity how to become the perfect predator. The humans had watched how the Corvani fought, learned their tactics, and then improved upon them in ways that made the originals seem primitive. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet," his communications officer announced. "Put it through," Vekfar ordered. Knowing that this would likely be his final conversation, Colonel Kim Woo appeared on the view screen. His face calm, but his eyes filled with a cold determination that made the alien admiral shiver. "Vekvar, your fleet is surrounded and defeated. You have one chance to send a message to your empire before we complete our mission." "What message would that be?" Vekvar asked, though he already knew the answer. "Tell them that Earth is not prey," Kim Woo replied. "Tell them that we are the predators, and that any species that threatens our world will face the same fate you are about to experience." The alien admiral activated his long-range transmitter. Knowing that this would be the last message his empire would ever receive from this doomed fleet, "This is Admiral Dekvar, to High Command. We have awakened something that should have been left sleeping. Do not send reinforcements. Do not come to this system. The humans are not what they appear to be." Captain Lee Min, who had survived the destruction of his original ship, listened to the transmission from a crowded escape pod. Around him, the few remaining Corvani survivors watched as human ships moved methodically through their broken fleet, ensuring that no vessel would ever return home. "They're not just destroying our ships," he whispered to his companions. "They're making sure our empire never learns what really happened here." The human fleet completed its work with surgical precision. Each alien vessel was systematically disabled, its crew captured or eliminated, its technology studied and cataloged. The humans were not just winning the battle, they were ensuring that no evidence of their true capabilities would ever reach the Corvani Empire. As the last alien ship was destroyed, Major Park Dahai reported the final tally from her station. All enemy vessels eliminated. No survivors detected. The solar system is secure, but Colonel Kim Woo was already looking beyond Earth's borders. On his screens, he could see human ships beginning to move toward the outer edges of the solar system, no longer content to simply defend their home world. "Signal the fleet," he ordered. "Begin Phase 6. It's time to ensure that no other world suffers what our colonies endured." The Corvani had come to conquer Earth, but they had instead taught humanity that the best defense was to ensure that their enemies never had the chance to threaten anyone again. The last fleet was gone, and now it was Earth's turn to visit other worlds,